Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 642. Out now in theaters across the US is Werewolves, an action horror that chronicles the grisly lycanthrope exploits of a supermoon night that causes the world's populace to transform into werewolves. Starring Frank Grillo and featuring practical creature effects work from the likes of Alec Gillis and Todd Woodruff Jr., Werewolves also marks the latest film from director Stephen C. Miller. I'm glad to say he joins me now on the podcast. Stephen, how are you?
Hey man, I'm good. Thanks for having me. That was a great intro.
Well, thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed Werewolves. But there's something I gotta say that makes me really just makes my heart a flutter when talking about this film. Is that it's so great that this movie is playing in cinemas. Not only is it playing in cinemas in US, it's actually playing in cinemas here in Australia as well. I don't know if you know
That's
that.
right. I do know that. Yeah, I think
Um,
you guys got it a day early. You got it on the 5th.
we we did. That's right. Because our movies come out like on a Thursday here in Australia.
That's right.
And so that's just so fantastic for me because a lot of times when genre films going to come out these days, especially I don't know what it is these days, they come out on streaming. People want to see
Hmm.
this stuff in the cinema. I'm telling you right now. I went to a premiere screening of Terrifier 3 like a couple of months ago, and that this was a huge cinema. We call them VMAX cinemas, packed with people
Right.
watching this indie horror movie. People want to
Yeah.
watch us. How cool is it for you to have a film coming out in cinemas? And what have your experiences been like so far watching this with a cinema audience?
Oh man, dude, it's actually really surreal for someone like me who's been grinding, making a lot of movies, hoping to get, I've had a few that have popped into a theater here or there, but nothing this wide, nothing where it feels like everyone's watching it at the same time. And it's been just really awesome to see the response. And seeing it with an audience was absolutely thrilling because you're sitting there, you have people cheering, you have people laughing, you have people clapping. For me, it was sort of a leave your body type moment where you're just
Mm.
kind of stepping away and seeing this all happen at once. It's very surreal, so fun. I'm having a blast, sort of hanging out and I just dropped into a few theaters last night. I'm gonna just continue to drop into a few theaters and just celebrate with the fans. I love horror fans, so I'm just gonna have fun with it.
What's great about Werewolves as well is that a lot of the times, sometimes a movie will come out and it promises something in its title, promises something in its poster. We don't get it. When we're watching Werewolves, we're watching practical effects driven work. Um, Werewolves on screen, not, Twilight style, whatever. We're watching proper,
Yeah.
carnival, huge hairy mothers. We got Frank Grillo with a Gatling gun mowing down werewolves. We got what we paid for, and that's what's really awesome. Is that something I know you yourself, like me, you're an 80s kid, and that's something that we got when we were 80s kids a lot of the
Yeah.
time. I think that's why there's so much affection for that decade. Is that something that kind
Yeah,
of harkens back to you as a film fan that you want to give what you promised to the people?
for sure. Like I think it's it's super important when you're dealing with a movie like this that it's called Werewolves. Like I
Yeah.
cannot let the fans walk out of the theater going, we didn't get any werewolves. And that was something that drew me right away to the script, right? There was so much action and so many werewolves on screen. It felt like
Mm.
it was calling to me as an 80s kid. We grew up watching these movies where they weren't scared to show them, where they were, in your face. It was that movie you saw, especially the box art in the video stores that we went to were so fantastic that you grabbed it just based on the box art and you got it home and you got what the box art gave you. To me, that was a great experience growing up. So I was really hoping to sort of give that back to the horror audience. Hopefully, the younger generation, when they see that poster hanging in whatever they're at, hanging up, they go see it and they go, okay, we get what's on the tin. We got it. It was exactly what we paid for, and that's important in a werewolf movie too. That you come out feeling satisfied. Like I got wolves, I got transformations, and I got Frank Grillo shirtless. I don't know that I could do
Mm.
anything more than that.
Ray Grillo shirtless, I gotta say, is it's almost like a practical effect in its own. I tell you what, it's like a
Totally.
natural phenomenon. The dude is what, almost what, late
Oh,
50s or something like that?
late 50s and jacked, right? He's
Yeah,
jacked.
big time. Um, The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you will love. I got a little theory in regards to something that I think is happening. I mentioned before Terrifier 3 and how the success that's had at the cinemas, and we have Werewolves coming down the cinemas now as well. I think there's a real thirst for kind of like films that are made by people with a passion that are making them. I think for
Right.
such a long time, people at the cinemas are kind of been given this steady diet of kind of like this IP driven kind of corporate kind
Yeah.
of like productions, right? And why I have a feeling that now when people go to cinema, they want to watch something where they know that the people behind the scenes who are making it with a certain passion, with a
Yeah.
certain emphasis on serving to entertain, and that comes from the passion of the filmmakers themselves. There's a trust that needs to be as- felt there first, more than
Hmm.
anything else. Because I think with the IP kind of stuff, it just went to the point where it just felt like it wasn't there. It was like filmmaking by board members, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is back
totally.
to kind of like the kind of guys we kind of grew up watching, like the what have you, the Cravens and the Carpenters of those guys. You knew those guys were the number one authority on their movies. I mean, is that something that you're feeling as well when it comes to a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, it's important to me, and that's why I do. That's why I go out to the movies, and that's why I go out and celebrate it with the fans. That's why I'm online, constantly pushing it with fans or boosting whatever fans are saying about the movie. Because I want them to know that I was there. I was in the trenches. I loved it. I had fun. This is a movie that was a super big passion for me. Snobby critics or whatever aside, like that didn't matter to me. I wasn't making the movie for them. I was making the movie for horror fans. I was making the movie for those
Mm.
80s, 90s kids grew up loving these kind of things. And as much as I could be entrenched in the audience with them, I wanted to be there to feel it and just have fun with them and really experience it.
When it comes to practical effects, I have this series on my YouTube channel called Saturday Conversations. We kind of dive deep into all that stuff. And one of the
Yeah,
questions I ask is practical or CGI. And I think I've done 20 of these long form things here, and like 99% of it was practical. And this is
right.
we're talking with filmmakers as well. And I think a lot of it comes down to there's a tangibility in regards
Mhm.
to it. It's even like for me, like I got a Jaws post behind me, you got your Jaws spread there. People might say, "Oh, the shark looks so fake." I was like, "Well, that's not the point. The point isn't
That's
that the
right.
shark. It's like the shark. I point is I know the shark's in that water. That's the
Right.
whole point of it, right? So when it
You're
comes up
totally right.
to, yeah, you could feel it. But also, the other thing I kind of pick up on with directors is that it's pretty cool when actors are actually playing alongside not a tennis ball on a string, but an actual creative thing. Do you feel it as well on a set that when you have
Yeah.
a practical, huge werewolf, like six of them running around with denim jackets and stuff, like people can
It's a big
actually
deal.
feel it on the set? It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a total big deal. And you got a guy like Frank Grillo who's been on Marvel movies and understands the tennis ball. And so to have that come on set, I remember when Frank saw the werewolf for the first time, he was like a kid in a candy shop. He
Mm.
loved it, absolutely loved it. He loved acting with it. It was hilarious. Like when the werewolf would need to, ask us directions or whatever, I kind of whispered to the animatronic guys to make sure his mouth was moving as he was trying to talk in the suit. So it was really fun for the Frank would just get a kick out of this werewolf's mouth looking like he's talking to Frank. If I move over here, so there's something about that you can't get with CG with the
Mm.
CG things because they're not there, and you don't get that personal feeling. And Frank was really able to understand, and Katrina and everybody was like really great with the werewolves. And I think it just comes down to practical is just it's just more it's there. You can touch it, you can feel it, the audience. And like you said with Jaws, and people would say, hey, well, werewolves, they don't look real enough. And I'm like, well, are werewolves real? I'm sorry.
Mm.
I think we're talking about a movie here that the werewolves what you have on screen, what's terrifying is that these people turning into beasts and what is that feral notion there and them losing what they humanity. And so to me, I'm with you. I think, we all know it's guys in suits or the shark doesn't work properly or whatever, but you're invested in the material and you're invested in the horror of it, and it's a movie and you're going in having a good time.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere. Um, so we touched on Frank Grillo. He is one of those actors to me, that is almost kind of like he's like the fountain of youth personified. He's kind of
Yeah.
like what we're seeing kind of like with LeBron James. Um, the older they get, the more prolific and more kind of like work they put in. And Frank is a madman
Totally.
in just in some of the production that he does. Like he does like a lot of films, and but he's also, whenever he does the films, he doesn't phone anything in. He puts everything into it, and you could tell by the intensity, by the physique. He comes in prepared and ready to go. When you have an actor like that at the front of your screen, even though the title is Werewolves, when you do Werewolves plus Frank Grillo, it
Mm,
says to me, what it says to me is that, oh, if Frank's in it, I know that he's going to put 100% into this. And I know that, when it's going to be in this movie, I'm going to get an action hero who looks the part. Because again, growing up in the 80s, we had action heroes that looked the part.
that's right.
And we know that he's going to bring it. What everyone's saying now, like, let's go.
Yeah.
That's a very
That's
Frankie kind of thing going on there, right?
that is Frank's deal, right? Like, and he is, you're right. He is that guy. Like when you get him on set, he's that guy too, because Frank is a total leader. Like the guy understands the assignment. He knows what he's doing. He's a pro. When he gets on set, he knows what he likes to do, and he really rallies everyone else to get behind him and do it. And really, he rallies everyone to get behind me, which is rare when a big action star, because they tend to get like they want to do what they want to do, and that's all that matters. But Frank's a very gracious actor who was like, hey, let Steven's wanting to do this. Let's get behind it and do it. He wants to douse me in blood. Okay, I guess let's go for it. So he was a gamer. He was all in. He is one of those actors that you just kind of lean on to give you the performance and also give you, sort of ride the tone, because the movie has a tone it has to ride, and he has to deliver some lines that could be considered ridiculous, but coming out of Frank, it's like, wow, like, I get it. Frank on a minigun saying, "Bite me, let's have fun." That just says what it
Mhm.
is. And
Yeah.
so, I really loved that Frank was game and had so much fun with the movie, and we all just really loved having him.
Um, do you remember when growing up, the first practical effect or creature feature effect you saw on screen, whether it be TV screen, cinema screen, what have you, that really kind of gave you goosebumps? Mine, and I still remember to this day because it's still one of the most scariest moments I had watching a movie. I was in my parents' room. They had a small TV, thunder, rain outside, and American Werewolf in London's on channel 7, I think it was. This is a time in Australia we only had like 4 or 5 channels. You couldn't get
Right.
away from it. And I was only because of the storm, it was the only channel that was working. And watching that practical effects scene, I was both mesmerized and terrified at the same time. And still to this day,
Yeah,
it looks fantastic.
it,
What
it
about yourself?
does.
Do you have a moment like that for yourself when growing up, like practical effects moment that made you just really just
Yeah, I have
wowed
one that
you
I
and scared you?
did. It was the same kind of deal. I was at a friend's house. I think we were in his basement, because that's usually where I saw the best horror movies.
Mm,
And he put on Fright Night, and I had never seen Fright Night. And I remember watching Fright Night. I can't remember. I was probably like 7 or 8 or something like that. And when Evil Ed is a wolf and then transforms back to human, and the practical effect is so nasty and gross, and he's dying with this stake inside of him, and it was just so intense. I remember thinking, man, how do I do that? Like, I want to do that.
mm.
Like, I want to make this kind of stuff. That really got me. That practical effect was really fantastic.
Um, Final question. The hope is for you, for your cast and crew, for everyone, that Werewolves does really well, box office, and hopefully we can see more of this. Now, this movie is interesting in that the original title for the film was Year Two,
Yeah.
because this is the second supermoon. There was a previous supermoon there. So there's a potential of maybe going back and
Yeah,
seeing
we talked
something
about
there.
it.
Is that something you talk about, like a prequel, kind of like first year of the
Yeah,
supermoon?
what I would love to do is sort of, we had talked about, if we do more, is every movie that we do opens in year one. So we get a year one sequence, kind of finding out how it happened and then flashing us to post, this movie.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of do that, rather than doing a full on prequel, just because everyone gets the prequel for these kind of things. And obviously, if it does really well and they want to do it, we'd do it. But I would love to do more or less like, so people keep coming back. All right, what year one sequence are we going to get now? What year one sequence in
Mm.
this movie are we going to get that sort of ties in the canon of the movies? And like maybe, you have enough where you could put those sequences together. Some crazy kid in the edit in YouTube puts those sequences together from 3 or 4 movies, and it's, a 30-minute cool, opening of year one. That's sort of like what we were thinking.
That sounds like a really great idea. But before that happens, everyone needs to go out there and check out Werewolves. Watch it in cinemas. We need to make sure we get indie films getting really good showing in the cinemas. Watch it there and watch it with some friends. It's a really decent
Yes.
movie you get to watch with your buddies. It's even good date night material as well. Okay, you go out there and you watch this film and you just immerse yourself in this world that Stephen C. Miller made. And Stephen, I thank you so very much for your time today. Congrats with the
Thank
movie.
you.
And again, congrats for it's in theaters, it's in cinemas. That's awesome, man. It's really great.
Wow.
And
So
it's
insane. Thank you
yeah.
so much for having me. And yeah, please go see the movie, get out, rate it, tell everybody about it. That's going to be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.